holy smokes, we just gained fascinating insight into what the 49ers think about two of their biggest problems from last year. In this video, we are talking about a fascinating non-move and a super telling move by the 49ers. Mixed in, by the way, are some other new reports that are somehow related in a bunch of different ways that are pretty wild. So stick around for all of that. But please consider hitting the subscribe button. I'm going to be doing a giveaway when I hit 10,000 subscribers, hoping to hit that before the NFL draft. So make sure you're subscribed so you can be a part of that. More info on that in future videos. But one of the biggest problems last year came on the defensive front. Could they have added here? Could they have picked up guys on the defensive line that could make an impact in the upcoming season? I told you yesterday that I love this guy right here, Ojulari, as a potential signing. And we're going to call this one a non-move because Ojulari just signed with the Philadelphia Eagles on a 1-year, $4 million contract. To the Super Bowl winners on a 1-year, $4 million contract. And this is one of those ones that if you're anything like me, you probably saw the news and your first thought was, that's it? We couldn't have matched that? So obviously there's a lot that this is telling you about what the 49ers think about Ojulari, about this defensive front that they are currently planning on putting together somehow, and how they're going to put all these guys together, whoever they are. We'll have to wait and see. But at his age and at his potential, I would have really liked to see the 49ers make a move for him. I'm not trying to say he's the next Nick Bosa or anything like that, but it would have at least been worth, in my opinion, taking the risk of bringing in this guy who's young and has great potential. That being said, the 49ers, we know a lot about, we're learning a lot about how the 49ers have approached some of these contract situations. Number one, the 49ers really do plan to address the defensive line in the draft. Because at this point, if they were going to address the defensive line in free agency, they probably already would have done it. Yes, there are still a bunch of guys out there, some big name guys still out there. Most of the big name guys are old though. So the 49ers do plan on doing something in the draft at the defensive line. No doubt, that's for sure. Number two, the 49ers plan to give Chris Kocurek a shot in the building process because that's kind of old school. Chris Kocurek's, reputation is like he can build the defensive line. And it looks like they're going to give him that opportunity to do that. Number three, perhaps the 49ers are working really hard to stay away from players with injury history. Ojulari here had some injury history. There are plenty of guys the 49ers have let go out of this football team or from this football team that have injury histories. So perhaps that's part of what's going on there. Not 100% sure, but that's definitely something that's possible. And an honorable mention, the 49ers might be cooking something else up entirely. And that's why the move hasn't happened yet. For example, Brandon Aiyuk is very much linked to trades. And, here's a good example. Let's see here. I still believe in my bones. This is from Greg Bedard from was it Boston Globe? I'm trying to remember. He's from the New England area though, but he says he believes in his bones that the Patriots will find the receiver they're looking for via trade among the likes of A.J. Brown and Brandon Aiyuk. The latter is the best option given the fire sale in San Francisco. So he believes that's going to happen. We saw how local reporters believing things are going to happen worked with the Brandon Aiyuk situation in Pittsburgh last year. But, that's what he believes is going to happen. So we'll at least take him at his word. A trade rumor is a trade rumor. But maybe there's a team out there that has defensive line depth and they can give up in a BA trade. Maybe that's kind of what the 49ers have cooking up. I don't know. But April 1st, a lot of money gets vested and the clock is ticking on Brandon Aiyuk. If you're going to get rid of him, you got to do it soon. You're running out of time. And one big challenge to this potential narrative of trading and paying big money for a defensive line in a trade, one big challenge to this narrative, of course, was underscored by Kyle Juszczyk. He is the Kyle Juszczyk. By Juice today on the radio, here's what he said. Yes, this is a real thing. The financial restrictions we're under are a real thing. I wanted to be a Niner, and we were able to get a number I was comfortable with. And this is obviously part of the question comes from, hey, you turned down money to come and play for the 49ers. What's the deal? Like, why were you willing to turn down money? And he had a longer answer there. But I thought the most telling thing that he said was, this is a real thing. The financial restrictions we're under are a real thing. He repeated himself. So there's definitely not just the narrative out there in the media, thanks to John Lynch during it was a couple weeks ago, right? When he spoke to the media during the combine. This idea is out there and it's going to players. This is pervasive. It's in the building, it's in the front office, and it's with every player they're negotiating with. So I'm sure that would include then George Kittle and Fred Warner. It seems other guys that we're expecting to get paid. So, the 49ers have cap space right now. And there are a lot of people out there who are criticizing the 49ers for not making moves like this one for Ojulari. And you know what? The thing that we don't know is what the 49ers know, and it must be that the 49ers in all these negotiations are definitely cutting it tight because of the financial constraints they're under. The biggest Achilles heel of last year, it wasn't the defensive line, and it wasn't stopping the run. Although that was for sure an issue, that wasn't the biggest problem. It wasn't lack of separation, although, of course, that was also a huge issue for the 49ers. But we actually did move the ball pretty well despite that lack of separation issue, as evident by a very solid EPA per play, considering our mountain of injuries. So the 49ers did move the ball. I don't think the biggest Achilles heel was the lack of separation. It also wasn't the lack of deep threat. We learned today from Warren Sharp that the best accuracy on go routes from 2024 goes to number 13, Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy was earned the best accuracy on go routes in 2024 in his bad season that everybody wants to keep calling it. So it wasn't a lack of a deep threat. The biggest problem, as confirmed by the 49ers movements over the last week or so, at least according to the San Francisco 49ers, the biggest problem is complementary football. We were trash. And the 49ers made a move on a guy to answer that again. And we're going to get to that. And I to be fair, like if you're not playing complementary football, that comes down to coaching. We were terrible at complementary football. We did not put together one whole serious, solid game. Cowboys was good, Patriots good, but not a single one of those games last season were a perfect picture of what this 49ers roster should have been able to pull off. And that comes down to coaching. That comes down to the team not playing as a whole, everybody not being on the same page. And the 49ers bring in another special teams ace, former fifth rounder, Saran Neal. I don't know how to say his first name, so I'm just guessing on that one. Somebody can let me know in the comments, but 2,260 snaps of special teams experience. A solid depth guy in the secondary as well. So you get that's kind of how that goes. You don't sign a special teams player who it can't at least be a depth piece somewhere else on the field. But Neal has delivered at least 300 special team snaps in each of his last 5 seasons in the NFL. Younger than George Odom, who's scheduled to see a $1 million off of his salary guarantee on 4-1, might be a sign the 49ers are moving on from him there. We'll have to wait and see, of course. But with special teams experience, the 49ers have now brought in Gifford, Farrell, Grant, Tomlinson, Pinnock, and now Neal. So there's a lot of dudes with special teams experience that have been brought in this offseason. The majority of the moves from the last week and a half or so have been guys who have played special teams. So I think that's important to note as well, by the way. And we're thinking about Brant Boyer. Saw this really interesting tweet from Danny G. Neal was on Miami last year and Buffalo for 6 seasons before that. New Niners special teams coach Brant Boyer has seen a lot of this guy, AFC East connections here. So that's a fair assessment there. Very interesting there. So are the 49ers going out of their way to build one of the best special teams in the league? Is that what they're trying to accomplish? We'll have to wait and see, but we definitely can tell by the moves that they're making that they felt the special teams, the lack in special teams experience, the lack of special teams ability last year, and inconsistency constantly. I mean, it was every single week for the first 9 games, there was one really big moment that you could say affected the game toward a win on that win versus loss, spectrum there from the special team. So I do think that the 49ers are working really hard based on the moves that they're doing to bring in guys who have special teams experience. Interesting though, because they're not bringing in other guys that you'd expect them to be bringing in. So that means, of course, they're focusing on the draft very, very heavily. The 49ers are drafting for need, which is against the rules, but it's not technically against the rules. It's just like an unwritten rule. Like, try not to do that. But here the 49ers are 37 days away from the most important 2025 NFL draft, the most important draft to some for the entire Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch era. So definitely let me know what you think in the comments on that one. Appreciate you and hope you guys are having a fantastic week.